All right, guys, Jake Raby here, Flat 6 Innovations. We're going on our second 4.3 liter test drive for the day. This is an R43 and a 2005 Boxster S. It has not been dynoed yet. We're just going to take it on its first initial spin after getting all the fluids and everything topped off, and I'll show you a little bit about what it's got. It's going to be a lot tamer now than it will be once we get it tuned. Just want to give you a little bit of a taste of what you could expect if you wanted to create a monster from your Boxster. All right, guys, so 2005 Boxster S, like I said earlier, it's only got about 10 miles on it. I'm not going to beat on it. It's a customer's car. Never beat on a customer's car anyway. Just want to show you guys a little bit about what you could expect with a monster created from a Boxster. So, first time it's been started up in a couple of hours. Still on cold start. Obviously, engine's still cold. All that sort of thing. It's gonna do what I did with the other car that I test drove earlier. Doing a little bit of a drive here in the Georgia countryside. This one has a very aggressive exhaust. But it's a Valvetronic exhaust, so we can hit the key fob here and we can quieten it up. So it's a lot quieter now, as you can tell. And then open it back up. I apologize for the quality of the video. I'm simply using an iPhone flipped around here to collect a little bit of a sample for you guys. So, big engine, 4.3 liters. You know, it's got a ton of download torque. That's what this combination's all about. Torque, broad operating range, having that consistent, reliable power that's always going to be there on demand, and you know that it's there, you know when it's going to come on, you know how long it's going to pull, and you know when to hold on. That's especially true on cold tires. So I've had a Boxster like this one with just a 4-liter engine in it, really get my attention on cold tires. It is harder for us to get huge power from the Boxster platform, not because of the engine, because it's essentially the same thing internally as the 997 version of this R43 that I took you on a ride a little bit earlier today in. And if you guys haven't seen that video, you got to make sure that you see it. But everything about the rear engine combination is more, it lends itself more to performance, from the exhaust primary length, everything about the exhaust, the headers, these Boxster engines, anything mid-engine, Cayman, whatever, has a lot longer exhaust primary section, secondary section, and it makes it a lot tougher for us to get the same power. Also, of course, with the engine being in the right place, it's in the wrong place when it comes to intake modifications and things like that. The intake manifold itself ends up being quite a contributing factor to it being harder to make huge power from the Boxster. Of course, the intake manifold that I would like to use is about 3.5 inches too tall to fit in this body. We don't want to massacre the body. We don't want to have any problems with fitment of anything, and we don't want to kill the vehicle. while we're doing this work. So we have to work around those constraints. The perfect car would have the car built around my engine. It would have the exhaust system built with the engine, and then the car would be built around the exhaust and the engine and the intake. But we don't have that opportunity. If we did, we would not have any constraints to work with. So just letting it warm up. My coolant temperature's at 175. Of course, I know that's a lie because this is a 987 chassis, and the gauges always lie. You never believe that coolant temperature gauge under any circumstance. I know right now that the coolant in this engine is probably not even 150 degrees, because I know what we see for coolant temperatures when we're on this flat 6 ring, our test loop, after firing up an engine on a spring day like this. So I'm going to give it another few minutes for the oil temperature to catch up. I do have an OBD2 scanner installed in the car, so I can look at my phone and I can see what the oil temperature is. And right now it's only about 115 degrees. So I'm going to come back to you here in a few minutes once I've got the engine up to temperature. But you notice how I'm driving. I'm short shifting. I didn't let the engine idle around a lot. I'm driving it easy. I'm letting the engine happily warm up so there's no thermal shock. So let me get some heat in this thing, and then I'll come back and we'll beat on it a little bit. Okay, we've come about 12 miles now, and oil temperature's up to about 175. Coolant temperature still 175 indicated, but it's actually showing 186 now on the OBD2. So I'm going to get on it just a little bit here. You notice how quick that it wanted that gear shift. Now I have the exhaust in quiet mode, so I'm going to open that up a little bit. Now it's loud. So same kind of thing I did earlier in the 997. I know that my power band's going to come on around 3,000. Now, I'm not going to be going wide open throttle here because this engine has not been dynoed yet. It hasn't had any of the other stuff done to it, but typically right here, I start to put some load on the engine to help break the rings in. I do not break these engines in easy, okay? And that is about all you want in a Boxster. Now, keep in mind, it's nowhere near completed. We'll do another review of this one once it's done. But right now, I'm just loading up these piston rings. I'm going to be doing some heavy deceleration here as I come up and down some of these hills in northeast Georgia. And I like to get some cylinder load. So I'm going to accelerate, not heavily. Now I'm going downhill and I'm decelerating heavily. Off the brake, heavy deceleration all the way back down to about 3,000 RPM. Now I use these same roads to do this over and over again. We accelerate and decelerate in the exact same places in every car, and I've been doing that for 18 years. Exact same deal. We log over 20,000 miles a year testing M9X powered Porsches on the flat 6 ring. So right there was a good test of the traction control, and it did kick in, it did do its job. Lit the tires up a little bit, wasn't even trying to. Still got a lot of learning to do as far as the ECU and all the things that we're going to change between now and the time that it's finished. Once we get a car running, we're only about 2/3 done with our job. This final third is the most important part of everything. This is where we're able to move the power band around and do a lot of stuff. Now, that doesn't mean we're just going to hook a computer to it. That's not what we're doing. We have the ability to make adjustments to this engine mechanically that make the difference. And that is through proprietary components that have more adjustability in them than what the factory is able to give you. And no, you won't be able to learn about those by using Google. They've never been divulged and never will. And please don't ask me about them. So just came up on the cams there pretty quick. Now keep in mind, this engine has 16 miles on it right now. And what I'm doing is what I do all the time when we break in one of these engines. I do this on a 52-mile loop, take the car back to the shop, make adjustments, then let the engine cool down overnight, go through a thermal cycle, then we do a second 52-mile loop on the flat 6 ring, okay? At that point is when we will roll it on the dyno and we start looking for efficiency numbers, not power. We start looking for efficiency numbers, and then we throw in our test gear into the car and we see how that compares with the dyno. Up another hill here. One thing is important, this engine idles perfectly at 1,000 RPM. You can listen to the exhaust note. Doesn't even sound built. Even though it's the highest displacement M96 engine in the world, to my knowledge, other than our 4.4 liter actually, but it's the largest displacement in a Boxster. We have not done a R44 in a Boxster yet. But in the Boxster application, the R43 is, to my knowledge, the largest displacement. But even though it's built like this, it has crazy camshafts, crazy cylinder heads, crazy everything, it doesn't act like it. It has zero project car feel. It is linear, it is able to deliver power at every RPM, and like I said before, you can count on it. You know when the power is going to come in, you know when to shift, you don't even need the tachometer. It has everything it needs and nothing that it doesn't. Now, could I get more out of this if I wanted to take away the drivability? Absolutely. I could get a lot more out of this if I wanted to kill the drivability and if I wanted to make this car a bitch to drive and a bitch to own. That's not what it's about. We want to make tractable power that you can rely on, that doesn't have any project car problems. It doesn't feel like a project car. It doesn't have teething issues. You know exactly what it's going to do, exactly when it's going to do it, every damn time you drive it. And this is the flat 6 difference. So I'm almost back to the shop here. I'm going to be making my turn onto Raby Drive. And I just wanted to show you guys a little bit about what it's like to go on a first drive in a Boxster that has been turned into a monster. Jake Raby, Flat 6 Innovations. Have a good day, good weekend, and an excellent spring. We're going to keep on making some badass power better than anybody else. That includes the other guy.